Hello everyone, it's me Boris, and in this video I'll be giving you a full update on the long range forecast for the US through mid-January, as there's going to be lots of roller coaster kind of temperatures and weather patterns. So lots to talk about. Going to flip in early January and then flip back in mid-January, and then maybe it stays that way through February. That's further out, but we'll take a look at how the East could go warm and then go back cold, and how the West could go cold and then back warm. So lots to talk about, and yeah, let's get right into it. So we'll start out with National Weather Service alerts and indices, as we usually do. Not starting with surface analysis this time, because most of the features that I've been noting in the past couple of videos are offshore. Now, we'll say there's a low pressure off the coast of California, kind of going north, paralleling the coast, bringing rains to the lower elevations and snow to the higher elevations, another atmospheric river. Lots of winter weather advisories in the Rockies, winter storm warnings in portions of the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. Towards the Dakotas and Montana, some dense fog advisories as we get some low-level moisture kind of infiltrating in. Some wind advisories as well, as the low is very dynamic, which typically is with atmospheric rivers. In the east, a little less active than it did show yesterday. However, we saw some winter weather advisories and warnings. These over here all with the lake effect type snow, and then over here more kind of like ocean effect, kind of actually this is a storm moving through Nova Scotia and kind of the Gulf of Maine, which is going to clip portions of eastern Maine with some heavier snow. That's why you even have some winter storm warnings over there. So gonna watch out for that. And then in Appalachian, some winter weather advisories as we get another piece of energy that's supposed to come through. Now, overnight, okay, so that's that. Overnight, we'll kind of go a little bit back. We had a little impulse, our little, what do you call it? Lake Snow squall, sorry. Snow squall, was blanking out. As you can see here, this is multiple runs ago, and it did verify pretty well, especially in my region near Philly. Did get around, I think, half an inch, almost up to an inch, probably in localized areas. But it was really quick hitting bursts of snow, but it was very heavy, very satisfying to witness. Happened very early in the morning, around 4 or 5 a.m. And so that kind of went off coast, and that has actually become that was the Arctic front itself, so it was way colder behind it. But the snow showers we experienced before, especially closer towards New York City, and especially Boston, has become a formidable storm much further north, and it's kind of, you can see it deepening. 989, pretty strong. Not the most well-formed, but it is dynamic, bringing some heavier snow, especially to eastern Maine, which is why we have winter weather advisories and warnings. Here is another piece of energy. We'll kind of just go through Euro and just see how it looks. So here we just have this long wave trough in the west. So here's our low on the coast. This could parallel the coast and actually it will likely go into California, but weaken as it does get in there. It's still going to be pretty impactful. Over here in the east, though, so you can see the ridge axis, or the kind of jet like this, the jet stream. So ridge in the east, or ridge in the west, trough in the east. So typical positive PNA pattern. So you have that. And so you got this long wave trough up here, which has had multiple short wave pieces of energy kind of coming around, which has been bringing rounds of snow through the region. So this is the first piece that kind of brought the Arctic front. That's going to head out. And then you do see some more energy. This one's a little further north, as that could bring some snow showers. And then in the kind of down here, we're watching this one little impulse that comes to the southwest portion of the lower 48. It's going to traverse this way. It is going to be south enough not to cause major impacts. There's also at the same time a north piece of energy right here, very weak, but it's supposed to come through, and you'll see how it becomes a formidable low well off coast. But if I'm telling you, if this was a little more backed up, this dove a little deeper and kind of more further west, you could have had a pretty substantial storm for portions of the eastern U.S. and then track a little more north. But it's a little suppressed, a little too quick and progressive, so it heads out. But you do see how it kind of phases a little further out. So, yeah, so how does that all look on the surface map? We can take a look. So here's your impulse of energy coming through. Going to bring some snow showers. Same areas, I'd say, as yesterday, maybe a little further south, further north, kind of same areas, I'd argue. But mountains will absorb most of the energy. They're also very scattered in nature. Here's your atmospheric river in the west. Snows obviously in the Rocky Mountains, higher elevations. Here's a little impulse of energy. Okay, we have had north trends. I mentioned that in other video. We've had north trends recently. Overnight, though, through the day today, it's kind of held steady, maybe even a little south, and then maybe tick back north, but around the same. And we are running out of time, so I would say shouldn't be anything too impactful. But it does show, especially Euro does show, that the low kind of forms, and you can get some light snows breaking out in this general region. Very, very light, scattered snow showers. Coatings all possible for sure. I'd say about DC, through probably even Boston, and then you can see how it becomes a much bigger storm as it heads out. And then right behind that, there's another piece of energy we're watching, kind of a Clipper type storm, but this does start to weaken as it heads down. Maybe southern New England, watch out. And then another one, this could be a little warmer, bringing more rain, maybe some ice, and that heads out. Another little shortwave. This one's much warmer, brings showers. This could track a little further north. This is kind of getting into fantasy range, but you kind of see this trend where you have these multiple little shortwaves ejecting from the south and kind of going like that. Okay? Kind of like that. Right now, you'll have that cold air in place. Like with this first one that's going to track a little further south, you'll have this cold air in place. But that's where we kind of see our pattern change. So this one, you have that cold air well in place. But watch, you start seeing moderation, and then you start seeing more troughing, basically just following the 540 line. That's kind of what you have. Okay, troughing, if not zonal, but definitely a little more of a negative PNA show here. And so you have your lows still tracking favorably, I'd say. But you have that warmer air, that moderation, so it's rain even through portions of the northeast. And so that's kind of the pattern change we're watching. And so that's something we'll have to keep of note. And then after that, back into mid-January, it looks to flip back, so it shouldn't be too lasted. So let's kind of see how that looks on kind of 500 millibar heights. So this is what we have right now, classic positive PNA. Here's your atmospheric river low right there, positive PNA through here, definitely east base, so you can see how it's starting to degrade, negative EPO technically. I think, yeah, it's basically negative EPO given the ridge over here. Very weak, very fleeting. You still have your negative NAO, though, up there. Pretty strong. You can see how it kind of starts to retrograde west. And so I do think, man, I really think that if that storm this weekend honestly just phased better, we could have had a pretty substantial event, at least moderate, through portions of mid-Atlantic and northeast. But fortunately, just a little too south for the snow lovers like me. And so this, because when you have this at this moment, like right here, you have your negative NAO, which is nice and west base, which would help to slow things down. Don't really have a 50-50 low over here, which we're kind of missing. But besides that, I mean, you still have your negative EPO trying. You do have a trough over here, so that's not the best. You'd want this ridge further west. I'd say if it was over here. That would also allow that north piece of energy to dive down a little more deeper and west and kind of get closer to that southern stream to phase quicker and stronger, have a cleaner phase. And so that would be other things. So small little changes that would help it, but just a little too short on time. Does head out, and after that you kind of see how that negative PNA takes place and that positive PNA gets broken down. Cooler heights in Alaska breaks down this negative EPO. That's how you get some ridging, at least zonal flow. You still have a little bit of a negative NAO, but it looks to be a little more east-based during this time period. But honestly, it doesn't stay for long. I mean, you still have that trough. You can already see, though, right here, ridging trying to take back place. This is honestly agreeable in all guidance. Ridging trying to take back place as this troughing starts to head east. This is late this upcoming week. Late next week, technically. And then through that same weekend, you start to see that troughing take back place. You get this ridging right here. Still got troughing in Alaska, but it starts to weaken and break down. Therefore, you get this troughing here, and your general flow is like this. Like that. Could have drawn that much better, but... And then you'll see, as I continue this through, there's your trough right there. Okay, and then it fades just due to confidence, but you still see there's your tall ridge in Alaska. Okay, this is exactly what you want. I'd say maybe you'd want it a little bit more west. I'd say, again, over Montana would be ideal. Idaho, Montana. But even this would work. Negative NAO, still some sort of signal right there. Negative EPO right here. And the reason you'd want the ridge further, I'd say over here, is because then you could get a Gulf of Alaska low, which would help with any amplification of storms. But this would be pretty favorable for at least moderate events. So we're definitely going to watch this as we get further into the month of January. So that's about it. Just wanted to give a long range update and hope you enjoyed. And I'll catch you guys in the next one tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.